There we go. Welcome back, everybody. We got PropStream with us, Burton. At this point, he's just an old friend, and we're just getting together to talk about comparative market analysis. Probably the one thing you need to learn at the very beginning of your career, and also to keep on refining because there are so many different ways to do it. And it's still one of the top questions I get asked when I'm in front of a seller. They're always going to ask, so what do you think about my home? What do you think it's worth? So this is very, very, very important. Pay attention to how we've broken it down because I've never done it on PropStream. So I'm curious, man, where do we start with this, Burton?
Yeah, and when we come to comparing properties, to other properties, we definitely want to utilize PropStream for this. We do have a comparables page in every single property that you pull up. So not only are we providing you property information, mortgage information, how many other assets the owner has, there's a comparable page. And what's cool about a comparables page is nearly the last 20 years, we've made it our job to collect not just off market public records, but also the MLS data nationwide. And so,
Oh, wow. So it's
again,
accurate.
well, I mean, yes, absolutely. Again, this data isn't like
Yeah,
something we just create out of
honestly,
nowhere. We do source it from counties, and in this case, the MLS boards across the nation as well.
I like it. A couple of things. First, your mic, I was wrong. It is in and out. So
Okay, let me make an adjustment really
while
quick.
you're
It could be
while you're
because I
doing that,
turned my head.
I have a couple of questions for everybody here. Let us know what city, what state you're from, what country. I see Simon. What's up, Simon? I know you. La Palma, California. Jerry not coming through. Screen is static. Screen's fine. It was the audio that's the issue. What do we got? There we go. All right. Let's see
Just
how
made
it
my
sounds.
adjustments. Can you guys hear me a little bit better now?
Way better. I got
Okay,
you.
yeah. Sorry about that. Just kicked off this mic. It might be just the wiring here, but yeah. Let me reiterate what that question you had asked. How do we approach it in PropStream? One cool thing about PropStream is, again, not only do we have the property details, mortgage information, and showing you the owner's other assets, we do have a comparables page. Very important because over the last 20 years, we have gathered not just public records for you guys to use, but MLS data nationwide. And so you can use both sources to get that value that you need when having a discussion with either a seller or a buyer.
Dude, I'm curious to see. Show me, how do we do this? Because when I read yesterday what we were going to talk about, I'm like, oh, could I use this and could it be faster? This is how I'm thinking. Could it be faster than me going to ChatGPT and asking it to use the Zillow app or the Redfin app, because now they're integrated, to give me a place to at least start so I can do this faster when I'm in a hurry? That's how I was thinking, right? So
Absolutely. Great,
now I'm
great,
curious.
great thought process there.
I want to know what we're going to do in PropStream because I love PropStream.
No, absolutely. So in terms of speed, I'm not as fast as these Chat GPT AI bots. So I'll hand it to them. That's definitely going to be much faster as you could use your voice. But in terms of actually having something that is like details and something physical that you can then print out and hand over to your buyers and sellers, I think we might have the upper hand here.
Ooh, okay.
So
I like it.
where I'd like to start is our search page. You can either type in an address, you can zoom in on the map and click on a parcel. And so let's do that. Like, let me just let's do Denver today. So we go in Denver. Now I don't have an address right now, so I'm just gonna randomly just zoom in and click on a parcel. And that's a benefit of PropStream. We have nationwide data. I'm not sure if that's what these other platforms that you're referring to have. It could be just listings that they have, right? So that, again, is where the upper hand could be on our end.
You definitely have more accurate data. 100%.
Oh, okay. And that's I appreciate that. And that's something I like to encourage people. Don't look at PropStream as like a listing site. And that's not what we are. We're a property detail nationwide platform, meaning just like what I'm doing right now, I can zoom in and click on any of these parcels in Denver And within a few moments, I have access
Mm.
to their property details. And I think this is the difference between us and the platforms that you're mentioning. Most of the properties that you see on these platforms are properties that are already listed. And so let's say you're an agent and you have a lead, a property that's not yet listed. That's where we come in. You can type in that address and then immediately, not only are we providing you property information, how many other assets this owner has, whoa, quite a bit here, mortgage information, the comparables and nearby listings. This is what's very, very powerful in the property details. This is what's going to help you get access to that after repair value or that as is value. And so this is how we do it. Did you want me to elaborate a little bit more here, Tristan, for you?
Yeah, I do, man. So if I'm looking at this to prepare, scroll up a little bit. I'll give
Yes.
you my thinking on this one. Okay, so let's say I'm getting ready to prepare a report for the value of 836 Julian Street, Denver, Colorado. Okay. They called me up and they're like, Tristan, we want you to do a listing presentation and you're going to go up against 3 other agents. I'm like, great.
Mm.
So now I need to prepare what I think the value of this property is going to be worth based on all the data points. How does this help me do that so that I can show up better for this client?
Oh, I love that. So the first thing I would do, just immediately impress either the homeowner that you're working with or a buyer that might be interested in the asset, is go into the property details, Tristan, and hit that print button right off the bat. Doing so gives you all of our information that you're seeing on the screen on a CMA report. Okay, so this is the first thing I would
Oh,
encourage anybody to do when using PropStream. You have an asset you're working on, or a homeowner wants to see what you can do to help them,
damn.
go in PropStream, hit that print button, and literally within like a minute of talking to that homeowner, you could just ask them for their email and send this over. And what that does is it lets the homeowner know, it lets you know as well, because this is your tool as well. It lets you know everything about that property. So imagine you're an agent, the homeowner calls you, hey, you're up against 3 other agents. What do you got? I hit that print button. I send this owner this information within the next few minutes. It lets that homeowner immediately know I'm not like the other agents out there, right? I have
You know
more
what?
information than
I
they might have. And that's not just property information, that's the local comps that are happening, and even my very favorite, the demographics in the market as well. That's all going to be attached to this
mm,
report. So property details, comps unfiltered. I'm going to highlight that
okay.
because that's the second report we're going to talk about, and then the demographics as well attached to this report. And all you got to do is hit that print button on any single property details page that we have.
Dude, I like that because then I can reach out to them. I could create a link and then say, hey, I've got some quick information for you. Do me a favor, take a look at this property profile document and some other information that you'll see there. Make
Mm.
sure everything's just like you think it is with your home, right? It gives you an opportunity to send something. They'll take a look at it and be like, oh, it all aligns. Or it could be like, no, we added an extra room or an extra bathroom. We just remodeled, right? So that gives us the opportunity to have even further conversations. I love this.
I agree with that. Now, that's just kind of impressing them right off the get-go. But when we're talking values, right? Obviously, there's some due diligence on every agent's end, and that's viewing the property, seeing the condition. And once you have that information, or maybe you don't, going into the comparables and nearby listings can really help you out. And so in this area, you have access not to just comparables, which is our most popular box, but we can show you other things like who's flipping properties within 24 months of acquiring that asset. So here
Mhm,
we can see 2 properties that were purchased, one in July of 2023, another one September of 2024. And this is all
mhm.
within a 1 mile radius, by the way. It not only shows us the flippers, it shows us their purchase price as well as their flip amount as well, whether they're renting it out or in this case, completely flipping it. We'll have access to photos. And so that's the flip comps,
Dude,
neighboring
right.
comps,
Can I
gated
pause you really
community.
quick? Because
Absolutely.
I always forget how powerful this is. Well, really quick though, Wayne, I just saw a question. Wayne's asking a really relevant question. How aged is this data?
Great question. So the way that data works in our realm is we have two updates, Wayne. Great. So the first update that you need to be aware of is the update within the software's company, right? So this is our update. So we have an internal update that's every 24 hours. Every 24 hours, what's sent to us is now displayed to our users. The second update, and this is the tricky part of that question, is we collect data from multiple vendors. And so you can easily just check how much data we have by going into our search filters. We collect auctions, bank-owned, bankruptcies, cash transactions. We have deceased owners, senior owners, tax delinquent. And so when someone asks me, hey, how frequent are you getting the data? The first thing I tell them to do is pick a data set. And so when we go to Denver, I can go into PropStream and I could say, well, I'm interested in your tired landlords. These are non-owner occupied properties that have 15 years of ownership. From there, once I single out that data set, we actually have tools to help you get frequency of data much faster, or just to identify the data frequency. You can actually click on this little tab right here by your results, and there's a column that says last update. And if you click on it twice, it puts most recent all the way to the most recent data at the top and oldest in the very last page. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because we don't get data from one vendor and we don't get an update every day from that vendor or every month. We get data from multiple vendors. That's the power of PropStream, is we went and got all that different data that's hard to obtain and then brought it within our platform. So what I'm saying here is that the tired landlord update isn't going to be the same date as when we get failed listings, for example. We'll probably see a different date. And so no two data sets update, but what you should know as a consumer is that the software company has their own update, and in this case, every 24 hours for us, but the vendors that send those software companies their data have their own frequency. And so something to highlight here, knowing this as a company, we've included an import feature, and that's actually found in our My Properties. And why is that important? Because you might get data before we do, right? You might go golfing with the divorce attorney, and that's your best friend, and he can get you the divorce records before the county gets it. I take those records and import them into PropStream, and then we can give you the mortgage data on those properties. We can give you the comps on those properties.
You enrich the data for us.
That's the industry. No one sole provider has everything. And I even say this, there's no provider that's ever going to collect one piece of data. I call it life data. We don't know if someone is sick in the house. We don't know if they need to move because their son got a scholarship in a different state. That's why I truly believe you still need to have conversations with these homeowners, because sometimes the pain point isn't what's found in front of you, right? But once you identify that pain point, then we can use tools like PropStream to get you values, to understand the balance of that mortgage, to see if there's another asset that can be used to help solve their problem. So great question, Wayne, and sorry for a very long-winded answer.
No, that's
but I think it's a very important question.
I like the completeness of it, man. All right, now let me go back to what I was excited about. Let's go back to any property. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so let's go pull up this property. Again, you can always hit the print button, print out that CMA report. That's the first thing I would start with if you're talking to any homeowner. But then as you start acquiring more information or really boiling down, what is the true value of this asset? I would highly encourage our users to jump into our comparables and nearby listings.
That's what I want you to zoom into. Okay, so you see the 25, 1, 100, 150, 10, 1, 150, 150, all those numbers right in the middle or now at the top?
Yes.
Take me through those and explain to me how I can use those with a seller that's sitting right in front of me, because now I have a few ideas. I just want to go through them first with you. You tell me what that is.
Great question. So the way my brain works, Tristan, is I like to separate things. So in terms of getting a value on a property, I think that's the first 4 boxes, right? So I'm looking to get a value on this asset. Then I start with the traditional box, the comparables. This right here is all of the public records we've collected for you in this area, all the MLS records we've collected for you in this area. As a matter of fact, when you're in the comparables, that's the first option, right? Are you looking for public records? What does this mean? This is going to show you every transaction that has occurred in this market, MLS transactions, but also off-market transactions. So we can show you a cash buyer who bought a property privately that didn't use a realtor. Why? Because maybe that homeowner wants to take that option, right? Or one of my favorites is the MLS data. As I mentioned, we collect nationwide MLS, and so you can use our MLS data. And so even though I'm in Southern California right now, I can pull up all the properties that sold or all the MLS data within a half-mile radius around this property and view not just the values of what they sold for, but the photos as well. So now I can really get that comparison. Does subject property that I'm dealing with look identical to this property off Netherland Street? And if the answer is yeah, they have the same fixtures, it looks like the same condition, same wooden floor, then I really immediately already know where the value range is of that asset. And so that's the first box, the traditional box, public records, MLS. Feel free to combine them both. The second box, Tristan, is the flip comp box. Again, this shows you anybody that's buying and then selling that asset within a 24-month period. So if you're an investor, you're working with a buyer who's like, I want to buy a property, I just don't know how much I should spend, and what's that renovation cost going to be after? This is the data set for you here. Neighboring records, gated community. Maybe you're in a cul-de-sac where the architecture is very unique to that cul-de-sac. This is it right here, right? You can use your neighboring records, see which neighbors sold. Maybe the neighbor next door sold a few months ago. There you have it. I also encourage you to look at this data set as potential buyers. Sometimes your biggest buyer is the next door neighbor who just wants to buy up the block.
Ooh,
so
that's true.
Consider looking at anybody on this list. Not only can you see if any neighbors sold recently, like this one in 2024, but you can go into the detail of that particular transaction, see who the owner was, and then see if that owner has multiple assets as well. And now you have yourself potentially a buyer, and not just a buyer, but you can also get a value, right? Because if they're already buying in the block, what they're paying is probably identical or similar to that subject property, minus any inflation or rise in market and stuff. We'll leave that up to you to determine. Fourth box, cash buyer box. Sometimes you're dealing with a dilapidated property and it's not going to list at full price.
Yep.
And it's hard to sometimes get that type of data on these websites that you mentioned, because most of those websites that you're mentioning are properties that are in great condition and ready to be sold or rented out. I think the cash buyer box kind of helps you evaluate properties in those as-is condition, right? Those dilapidated properties. This would be a great way to see what are cash buyers buying these as-is properties. And as you can see, it's not the $500,000 value that we just saw when we looked at the property on the MLS. And so to me, Tristan, these are the four boxes I would utilize heavily when it comes to getting a value. And again, it's going to depend on the situation that asset is in, and that's going to let you pivot whether you need as-is values, cash transactions, or hey, it's in great condition, we just need to list it. Let's see what the other properties in great condition are listing for. And then the other boxes to the right of that, Tristan, I think it's more of an educational box.
Okay.
Letting the owner know, hey, there are more pre-foreclosures that are populating in the market. I do see a bank-owned property down the road that sold recently for $353. So I do believe from pre-foreclosure onward, that's more of how can I use this to educate that homeowner about that market. But in terms of getting value, I would definitely say comparables to cash buyers is your best bet.
I love the breakdown here. And I'm thinking if I could, in some instances, I'm able to get this data and bring my computer and show them certain things. That's how I was thinking about this, right?
Ooh, so I like that. And instead of bringing your computer, here's what I would recommend. Just print out our comp report. It's found in our comparables box. And the way it works is just run your comps. So we're in comparables. I'm going to choose maybe both records, right? Maybe just the MLS. We'll let you decide. So let's do it traditionally. Let's choose the MLS like most of us would. What I then recommend is make your adjustments. By default, we go back a year. But if you're in a market that's moving very fast, feel free to move it up if you'd like. So instead of going a year back, I can maybe go up until August 1st of last year to today's date. Please apply your specifics, meaning put in your property details, right? If it's a 3-bedroom, put in your 3-bedroom. If it's a 4-bedroom, put in your 4-bedroom. Same with bath, same with your build. Square footage also applies. We naturally put it in there for you. It's a 10% plus or minus, but you can override that and get really granular if you need to. Lot sizes is also a filter. Status. So in this case, we always default to sold, but if you want to show the homeowner, the active listings that are also in the area, you can, right? Because I look at it this way, again, education. What sold last year may not be the same price as this year. There might be an increase in prices. So to show the owner, hey, look, houses last December sold for $530, but what we're seeing on active listings is $550 now, or the opposite. Sometimes it could have sold for $500,000 last year, and then now we're seeing active listings for $480, $460, right? So I look at these statuses as kind of an educational tool, but I would say in terms of getting like actual comp values, again, I'm going to emphasize you usually want to stick with sold. So I'm only highlighting these statuses because I do see some of our users use other statuses as more of an educational tool, but in terms of getting value, stick with sold. Okay, want to emphasize that. Distance, we usually default to half a mile. One thing I notice is this is not like my market. We're packed like sardines out here in Southern California. They do have a little bit more lot sizes than we do here in Denver, and instantly knowing that, maybe I need to increase my comp distance from half a mile to a mile. So feel free to make that adjustment. And last but not least, apples to apples. Because we have so much data, you can comp vacant land, you can comp duplexes. In this case, this is a single family property. And so I could specify PropStream, only show me results that are residential, single family, condos, whatever it is. So again, apples to apples. Once you narrow down your results, you're going to see the addresses based on the filters that you've applied. You're going to have access to their photos, so you can make those side-by-side comparison, right? So you see now what a $500,000 house is supposed to look like versus a $600,000 house is supposed to look like. And you can see the major differences in appliances and fixtures and presentation in this case. Here's what I like, Tristan. This is the final piece of it all.
Tell me.
As you're going through your comps, you're going to eventually find the comps that you like. In this case, maybe first 3 and maybe my first 4. Once you filtered and select the comps, I would recommend going into this action button right here and then hitting view comp report. This is the second piece of report I would recommend that you bring or present to the homeowner. Remember, the first one we showed you was just, here's everything I know about your property, Mr. Homeowner, let's talk about it. And I love what you're interested in. Let's make the adjustments as we go over this piece of information. But when we're having a discussion about values, go into the comps, select your option, add your filters, actions, view comp report. And what that does is you get a separate report. This is specifically all about the comps. And so on this report, it shows the property details, a little bit of the listing history on that property, the public record data that we have on that property. If this property that we're dealing with sold on the MLS, you'll see that. But here's the most important part about this first page. It lets the homeowner know that you've applied these search criteria to find properties that are similar. So now the homeowner knows, okay, well, Tristan, Burton, they are looking for comps with the same filters that I have listed above. Okay, so that immediately lets the homeowner know Burton's doing his due diligence, not just grabbing comps out of the air, manipulating values. But based on those filters, the next page then shows the homeowner the comparison. It says, okay, homeowner, based on everything we have, public records, MLS records, the subject property right now has a $358 sell price, and that's from 2000 and whatever when we sold the property. But based on the comps that I just selected using these filters I showed you, here's the low value comp, here's the highest value comp, and then the average of those comps. And I love this because now it literally puts that homeowner in that, oh, okay, well then maybe I get the higher value, maybe I get the lower value. Well, if you want the highest value, while you do have a lot of square footage, that property was built in 2015, Mr. Homeowner, Mrs. Homeowner.
Yeah.
Right. It's so I look at it at this tool is great to educate, not argue. Because I think once you start arguing about what the price could
So
be,
true.
that's where things go sour. And so here it just lays the data out, right? Lowest value comps are at 535, highest 740, the average of those, here you go. And then it shows the subject property and where those comps are on the map. And if the homeowner scrolls down, shows them the sources, a little bit more about the comps that you've selected. And then we've also included photos. So that way, when the homeowner is looking at these comps and their house is falling apart, they're not going to, you're going to be like, okay, you're right. Maybe my house isn't worth $600,000. What do you suggest? Because you've done all your homework now. So to me, the reports, the data, while it's going to be helpful getting a value, to me, there's another whole world that we need to like understand. And that's how confident how can we instill that confidence in that homeowner that we know what we're doing? And I think these reports can really, really help out, right? Now, you did mention those other products and using AI. I think it's cool, but I can't hand that to that homeowner. I can't show photos immediately. So to be able to just print out these reports and say, Mr. Homeowner, here's the first report, everything about your property, and then here's that second report, the low, the high, the average comps in the area. Let's have a further discussion. I think that's the selling point here.
Yeah, that's a big selling point, man. I love this. And I love the way you broke it down. I had no idea this was here.
Oh, wow.
When you were, that's why I wanted to talk to you about this. All right. One more thing. If you scroll all the way up to the top of this, there's another button at the top that says analysis. What is that for?
So the analysis is if you're really hands-on and then doing maybe the flip itself. But here is our universal analysis. And so this allows you to apply what your numbers essentially to see if your return on investment's worth it or not. So for example, let's say this asset that we're dealing with, let's say I'm the fix and flipper right now. I can say, hey, this asset I'm researching, it's an investment asset and we're going to purchase it. Let's say we got a huge deal. We talk to the owner, it's falling apart, whatever. We're able to work with our realtors in that area, talk to the owner, and we get it for, let's say, $430,000. Right? That's the final transaction. Now, improvements, we can assume the improvements are going to be $100,000, or you can break it down. You can actually itemize it, which is really cool here. But let's say the improvements after acquiring this asset is going to be $35,000. We'll go ahead and punch that in. Next page is our mortgage page. So now we can tell the system or tell the analysis, hey, we used a mortgage for this and it was a fixed rate interest or interest only or combination. So many different mortgage services out there, mortgage products out there. Make sure you apply the one that you're using for this investment. And then you can apply that information. What was your mortgage amount? How much was your down? What's your rate? How many years? And so as you apply all of that, your next page is going to tell you what your closing cost is going to be based on all of that, right? You can amortize your payments if you like, so you can see what your payments are going to be over the next 30 years. The third page is the income page. This allows you to say, okay, well, now that you know what I bought it for and my renovation costs and how much my mortgage was for this, here's what I plan on doing. I plan on renting out this property for $4,000 a month after we apply those renovations. And not only can you tell us what your income, your monthly income is going to be on there, but we've had people use this to break down properties because they're renting out rooms. So it's a college town. I want to rent out room 1, room 2, room 3. So you have these features, but this is your income page. The next page is your expenses, right? No property is free. You got to pay taxes. There might be landscaping fees, utility fees. So this is your monthly breakdown. Just let us know what your monthly expenses are. And then finally, the last page is the sell page. So here you could say, okay, after knowing all this information, I just applied my purchase price, my mortgage, my income analysis, my expense analysis. You can even tell PropStream what you plan on selling this asset for down the road. So maybe, we plan on selling it for $600,000 after renovations and whatnot. Apply your taxes, and then how long do you want us to run this analysis for? So let's say we plan on flipping this property within 2 years of acquiring it, right? So bought it for $430,000, we added $30,000 into renovations. Here's our monthly expenses. We plan on selling it for $60,000. We can hit the next page. It's going to not only tell us what our return is, but we can also download a report. So typical analysis, Tristan, but it is embedded in PropStream. And for me, this is, I normally see people that are really hands-on when it comes to being the flipper or the investor themselves. Or again, maybe you're working with a buyer who's a flipper. You can utilize this analysis to kind of paint that picture for them. That could be the third report that either goes to the homeowner and lets them know, hey, if you want to do this yourself, here's the breakdown, or even that buyer who looks at that asset as potential flip.
I love this. And Azan, yeah, you can use this for buyers, sellers, investors, renters. There's there's no limit to what you can use this tool for in the real estate world. Every time I talk to Burton, I'm like, oh, you can use it for that too. You can use it for that too. So yeah, it's an amazing tool. It's one of the tools that I've grown to see that it has to be one of the tools you use for real estate. It's become like integral for everything. So that I love the tool, man. Like when people, I had a coaching call. I'll leave you with this. I had a coaching call with somebody from Colorado, independent broker, has his own team as well, and then runs a property management company. And then he's like, hey, I've got this many in property management. I want to go here. We went through all this other stuff, but at the end, on this other side of things, I'm like, yeah, you know what? You also need PropStream, and you need to here's how you use it. So this is why I love talking to you, because it puts it into my vision in my mind, so that I'm like, that's a great tool. And then I go and use it, and then I talk about it. So great job.
That's a lot. It's funny that you said that. Someone said, you guys are like the encyclopedia from the 90s. And that really aged that person. And it aged me because I understood exactly what he meant. I remember having all those CDs back in the day. And if you wanted to learn something about a topic, you just plug it in and then learn about that topic. He said, that's what you guys have become for real estate professionals. I'm like, never thought of it that way. He's like, if I need to know mortgage information about an asset, PropStream. If I need to know if they have more than one property, PropStream. If I want to build my own list because I want to start marketing to off-market properties, PropStream. And I'm like, okay, wow. The fact that I even understood that analogy, you could see the gray hairs, but I thought that was a really good analogy there.
That's funny. Guys, take a look at this 7-day free trial. Nazan, take a look. The price is on there as well. So just scan that, or just go to propstream.com. I was on and taking a look at some stuff as Burton was talking, because I've got it too. So have fun, everyone. Thanks for jumping in. 7-day free trial. Burton, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Thank you for having.
Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome day.